Hello, and you're all very welcome along to another episode of the Gaelic Statsman podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Hurley, and I'm here tonight with Aaron Prendergast from Gaelic Games Fan TV to discuss this weekend's action. I suppose it is a higher importance weekend of action, but lower games, if you will, this weekend with there's only four games of the Tailteann Cup. There's a few outright the LGFA Camogie Championships, and of course there is the three big finals in hurling this weekend as well, and we will delve in to those as soon as possible in this podcast as well. So thanks to Capture Nets for sponsoring today's show as well. If you want the best gear around, check them out if you haven't already. So Aaron, I suppose as I said at the start of the show, it's a weekend of more importance and less games, if you want to put it that way. So the Munster Finals obviously the main event this weekend. Dublin Kilkenny, I'm sure you're going to that tomorrow as well. So there isn't a lot of action this weekend, but I suppose there is a lot of finals to get through and a lot of trophies to be handed out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, cheers, Matthew, for having me on. Yeah, no, there's some big games. Obviously, the Munster final, the Leinster final, probably the two biggest, and then obviously the Joe McDonagh Cup final. But yeah, there's some big matches on the Tailteann Cup, some big matches in the Ladies Football Championship, obviously as well, Camogie. So yeah, it's probably not as a hectic weekend as previous weekends with so many matches just on everywhere. But yeah, looking forward to previewing the games again.
Yeah, exactly. So before we get into the preview of games, we're going to the week of Gaelic Games section this week. And the one story, well, would you call it a story? More rumours circulating around the place on social media. One rumour said early on in the week that Mickey Harte was to leave his post as Derry manager, but then the renowned journalists went out and spoke on Twitter. The likes of Carol Kane, Thomas Niblock, Michael McMullen, all said Mickey Harte is staying as Derry manager, and he will carry on to manage Derry for their last game at the group stage of the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship for that game against Westmeath. Interestingly, I think it was a reply to one of Niblock or Kane's tweets. Owen Mulligan, the former Tyrone footballer, actually said thank God for that or something like that, which was absolutely comedic gold on Twitter, I'd have to say, this week. But at the same time, Mickey Harte is staying on as Derry manager. But is there more pressure now on the Derry players to go on and get a result out of this, Aaron, if there wasn't already? Because it is well documented at this stage. Derry have to beat Westmeath next week to stay in the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the pressure was already huge, and the pressure is probably amped up even more so now with the rumours going about. And I think, to be fair, if Derry don't beat Westmeath, I think Mickey Harte will go. I don't think he'll be there next season, in my opinion, because they brought him in to win an All-Ireland. It's pretty simple as that. That's the reason why they brought him in. They have a golden generation of players in McGuigan, McCaig, Conor Glass, and they realise they need to cash in on this now because a lot of those players are getting older. They could retire in the next 3-4 years. So you need to cash in on them. And if Harte doesn't even get them out of a group that 3 teams get out of, it would be nothing short of embarrassing. And I think he probably would have to go, in all honesty. And I think, to be honest, even if Derry don't get to a quarter final, and depending on context and in terms of who they lose to, I think the writing could be on the wall. And he could be gone. But the rumours were a little bit crazy, a little bit mental, a lot of people reporting that he was going. Then obviously a lot of people very quickly changed their tune. Yeah, it's just, it kind of is how it is in the GAA. Rumours just tend to spread like absolute wildfire. Kind of reminds me of when loads of rumours started going around that Dessie Farrell left Dublin a couple of years ago. Something similar has obviously happened with Kerry and Peter Keane. Maybe some of them were true, but it's a hard one to know. I'd say most likely there was probably a meeting called, emergency meeting, given the results, and maybe a family member or something sent a text on to someone and said something big is happening here, and then it just spread like absolute craziness. So he was never going to leave before the Westmeath game. This isn't soccer, do you know what I mean? Where a manager just gets sacked halfway through a season. They're always going to give him at least until the end. But yeah, massive pressure on them now.
Out of my own memory, I think the only 2 managers, or there might have been more at a high level anyway in Gaelic Games, or maybe even 3 that have actually quit mid-season, were Saoirse Bulfin from Meath, the hurlers, but that was obviously because of family reasons. You had Ray Dempsey with Limerick last year, which was, I think that was bizarre. That could be counted in the category. And I think Gerard McCarthy from Cork Hurlers in 2009 was another one as well. I don't remember any other Gaelic Games manager at a senior level anyway quitting mid-season. So it would have been bad for Mickey Hart to quit that way. But I suppose there have been, we're talking about rumours now, but there were more rumours that their team bonding holiday, while in between the All-Ireland and the Ulster Championship didn't go well. Apparently there was rifts in the camp and things like that. You see the reaction with Conor Glass when Eamon Bradley was brought off the last day against Armagh, waving his hands about. Like, do you actually think the players are actually happy in the Derry camp at the moment? Because it seems like with the rumours coming out and with stuff in the holiday and all the stuff that went on in the Armagh game, they weren't really playing to their utmost potential either. Do you think that kind of seeped onto the pitch, the kind of frictions in the dressing room, the potential frictions in the dressing room?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it could have. I think Derry's been known for like the in-house fighting between club teams and everything else. And I think the big rumor that went around was that, they went away on a team holiday to Portugal and Mickey Hart didn't go. So whether it's a case of, team captains and everything else that were supposed to get the house in order didn't, and maybe there was some fighting and everything else. But I think, I think a lot of players don't really look happy. And I think there is an argument that the players have down-tooled ever so slightly, because like, I was watching some of the highlights back of the Armagh game earlier today, and like, fair enough, we talk about tactics and we talk about obviously how Mickey Hart had so many players inside the 45-metre line, the 30-metre line of Armagh, and the way they were playing, like the full kick-out press and everything else. But at times when Armagh would turn the ball over, there wouldn't be many Derry players were sprinting back. Do you know what I mean? Like, absolutely, like gunning to get back. And I don't know, like, I think under Rory Gallagher and everything else, you wouldn't have saw that. Do you know what I mean? And Derry was built off of a great defence. That was the first great thing, really, about Derry, was their defence. Then in time, their attacks started getting more and more potent. And obviously this year, we've saw them nearly take it up a notch throughout the league. So, like, yeah, I think tactics have gone wrong, but I also think you could also argue the players have probably down-tooled a little bit.
Yeah, there is arguments about that, and I suppose that the proof would be in the pudding. Next week's game against Westmeath, I'm sure we will discuss it on the podcast next week as well. In lead up to that game is live on Jago, but that's next week's games. We'll go on to this weekend's games now, and what a way to start the podcast here. Are Limerick against Clare in the Munster Senior Hurling Championship final from Semple Stadium in Thurles on Sunday, 4 p.m. RT2. All we need is a good weather, and we get a brilliant game of hurling in all fairness. But to be fair, like, it was pouring down rain in 2022, and we probably got one of the best Munster finals in history. So maybe the weather won't be a factor. We'll have to see. But this game is absolutely mouth-watering nonetheless.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, it's the clash of all rivalries. It's the two best teams in hurling, really. You would have said over the last couple of years. I'm sure Kilkenny probably have something to say about that, but as far as rivalries go, I think in hurling right now, there's probably no bigger game. Last two Munster finals, Limerick Clare. You've obviously had Limerick Clare, going toe to toe in the Munster Championship as well. And there's so much historical significance to this game. Like, Limerick could win the 6 in a row, which has never been done at senior level in the Munster Hurling Championship. They could also equal Clare's entire tally in terms of winning 6 Munster Championships, which is all that Clare have won in their history. They could do that alone 6 years in a row if they win on Sunday. So, yeah, there's so much going into it. So many questions, like, will Limerick have lads back? Darragh O'Donovan, Sean Finn. Will some of the fringe players play? Will we see the best out of Cian Lynch, Gearóid Hegarty? Will Tony Kelly start? So, yeah, there's a lot of permutations going into the games this week.
Yeah, exactly. Leave a look at the record between the two sides, and we'll be looking at it from all angles there on Know the Game. That website is very good for looking at team stats and everything like that, head-to-head records before the game actually throws in. It's a very good website. Check it out if you haven't already. Look at the last few championship fixtures between Clare and Limerick. In the last 7 meetings, Clare have won one of them, and that was at the Gaelic Roads, obviously, with Peter Duggan scored that goal, that 124-220 win in 2023. So, other than that, the last time Clare beat Limerick was in 2018 in Cluniac Park Ennis by 26 points to 15. They beat them in 17 as well. And coincidentally, in that kind of run for Clare, they beat Limerick 3 times in a row that time. But Limerick have started to take a stranglehold ever since 2019. So, like, is that something that Clare need to rectify on Sunday in many ways, that record? Because I know they put it up to Limerick in many stages in the past few seasons, but only winning 1 game out of the last 7 in Championship. It's not a very good record to have against your rivals.
No, it's not really like, and I suppose it's been very close in the last couple of seasons. Like obviously, Clare had the 1 point win last season in the round robin, and obviously Limerick came back and beat Clare by a point, I think, in the Munster final this year. Like Clare were well on top, and then Limerick obviously came back to win it. So there hasn't been much really between the two teams. It's not like a case that Limerick have just beaten Clare comfortably every year. Like it has been quite close, but yeah, I think for Clare, like there is an argument if they lose this weekend and it's 3 Munster final defeats in a row. Like where do they go from here? In the sense of 3 final defeats in a row. They're looking as good as they've ever looked, obviously, since they won the All-Ireland. You would start to wonder, like, what more do they need to do in order to actually go and win a Munster title? But yeah, like Limerick definitely the dominant side in terms of the rivalry in the last few seasons.
And I suppose even looking at matchups in general, because Limerick most likely will be without Seamus Flanagan, they're definitely without Peter Casey. I don't know what's the situation with Mike Casey and Sean Finn at this present moment in time. Will they be fit in time for the Munster final? So matchups is definitely going to be a key aspect of the game. And before we get into it, there is a comment here about, I think it's the Mickey Hart one, like our man football, or hurling rather, like our man football, can Clare close out the big game? And that is actually, I was going to go on to matchups, but that is a very good point actually. Yeah. Do Clare need to win this game properly to be more taken seriously in the context of the All-Ireland Hurling Championship? Because it is a while before Clare actually closed out a big game. And yeah, I think Clare, it's mainly a must win for them either in this game or potentially a Kilkenny game in an All-Ireland semi-final.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's interesting, all right, because in a lot of the games, yeah, they have gone down to the war, and like Clare probably have struggled a little bit. They obviously conceded the late penalty against Waterford, against Tipperary. Things got a little bit nervy towards the end of the game. Obviously Limerick, they fell apart. Cork nearly came back as well. So it would be very interesting to see, like, if Clare have a 2, 3, 4 point lead going into the final couple of minutes, do they fall apart a little bit? And I think Clare probably are. It's kind of similar to Armagh in the sense that they haven't got over the line yet. Like they've a lot of very, very good players. They play some of the best hurling in the sport on any given day. They've had some big wins here and there, but ultimately they haven't had anything really to show for it. Like no All-Ireland final appearances, no All-Ireland semi-final wins, and obviously no Munster final wins in the last couple of years. So yeah, I think it's massive for Clare. Like, and I think it could be like, I think if they win this weekend, that could maybe be what takes them over the line, because we all know they have the talent, they have the players, they have the ability. It's just the mentality, and I think very often that's probably been the difference between Limerick and Clare.
And even going on to matchups though, like I'd imagine with Seamus Flanagan being out, with Peter Casey being out in the forward line, you would imagine Conor Cleary would probably go on Aaron Gillane. I probably would say that would be the case. Could it be Adam Hogan going on Aaron Gillane as well? We'll be interested to see that kind of matchup. I think the midfield partnerships will be very, very interesting come Sunday by Silverarm, because you look at Limerick in the last few games, especially the Waterford game, they've Will O'Donoghue and Conor O'Neill midfield. I just wonder, would Darragh O'Donovan actually come back into midfield for Limerick? You obviously have the staple in Darragh Owen and David Fitzgerald in midfield for Clare. As we know, David Fitzgerald has been absolutely outstanding for Clare in this Munster Championship campaign. I think he scored 210 from play in this campaign, which is an incredible tally. So around the middle of the park, the two main players for the two sides there are probably David Fitzgerald and Conor O'Neill, who have arguably been the respective sides' best players in the Munster Championship. So will the battle in the middle of the park be probably the key in trying to win the game on Sunday for either side?
I think so, yeah. Like you're looking at obviously in there, like Davy Fitzgerald, Darragh Owen, could Cathal O'Neill obviously come in there? Like he's been outstanding the last couple of games and really sort of took it up a notch, sort of in replacement for Darragh O'Donovan. I have heard rumours that Darragh O'Donovan's back and could very well start. Has been back in training and everything else. Will he be fit enough to start? We won't know. And even when the teams get announced, we mightn't still know really until the ball's actually thrown in. He could be a late change, but to be fair, like Cathal O'Neill's been absolutely outstanding for Limerick so far this year. He's arguably been Limerick's best player in the championship. I think he's really, I think you could see in the last couple of years, obviously young player, technically the skill was there. You could see that, but now he's got the physical size and stature and getting the hooks, the interceptions in. Some of his ball control, I think, has been brilliant as well. So I think Limerick probably do have the better in midfield. Like Davy Fitzgerald probably does more so go into the half forward line. Obviously Darragh Lohan does be bursting forward as well. But I think Limerick's midfield is very usually what comes out on top. And obviously having William O'Donoghue in there, an absolute veteran of the game at this stage. So I would say Limerick in around the middle, I think will dominate. It's just going the other way. Like, because even when you think back to when they played each other in the Munster Championship, Clare only got one goal that day, and like Limerick haven't really conceded that many goals throughout the championship so far. So like that's going to be the big sort of statistic. Or haven't scored too many goals, I mean, actually, sorry.
Yeah, that's the thing, because when you look at the goals they have conceded, Limerick, they've only conceded 6 goals in this Munster Championship campaign, albeit 3 of those were against Cork, but they conceded 2 against Waterford and none against Tipperary, obviously, and 1 goal against Clare and Ennis. They've only conceded 6 goals, and Nicky Quaid has faced 14 shots. He's saved 8, which is absolutely incredible in its own right. A kind of area that I want to focus on, look at the side for Limerick in general, is Kyle Hayes at number 7 and Barry Nash at number 4. Kyle Hayes got to think about 4 turnovers against Waterford, and arguably the best player on the pitch that day against the Dacia. And Barry Nash got 8 turnovers against Waterford the last day, and he was absolutely incredible. So would that be the key for Limerick? Look at defence, look at that left-hand side for them in Hayes and Nash, and obviously Nicky Quaid and goal.
It could be, yeah, because like Limerick have obviously, since they moved Hayes like out of the forwards, like into the half-back line, that has given Limerick a little bit more. And Limerick are probably more dangerous in that area of the field than Clare are. Like obviously with Clare, you have Dermot Ryan, John Conlon, David McInerney, but they're probably, I feel like with Clare's defensive setup, it's more about keeping the shape, keeping the forwards out and stopping what Limerick are doing essentially. Whereas with Limerick going down the other way, as you said, like Kyle Hayes will get a turnover, and if he has space, he'll slot the ball over the bar, or he'll pick someone out in around the full forward line. And like you could argue as well, like Jeremy Burns probably hasn't had his best year so far for Limerick. He probably still has some improvement to do. Declan Hannon maybe hasn't looked right since coming back from injury, but yeah, like that left hand side, Barry Nash, Kyle Hayes. It's been known really. Like I think everyone was saying in the last couple of seasons, if you stop Barry Nash, you're halfway towards winning an All Ireland, because it's nearly like Limerick's +1. But such a hard thing to do, because you focus on Nash, then you've got Hayes, then you've got Cathal O'Neill in midfield, then you've got David Reedy, Grode Hegarty. Like there's so many fires to put out, and that's what makes it such an impossible task for Clare really.
And just focusing on the Clare forward line for a bit, because I think their forwards has been brilliant in this campaign. They haven't got much wides. It's well documented this season. Mark Rogers has done well from play from centre forward. You've Aidan McCarthy, who's done excellent on free, albeit Argalan has scored 26 out of 27 free, which is an absolutely incredible record to have, and probably understated in this Munster Championship. But would the key for Limerick as well to be stop them two in particular, Aidan McCarthy and Mark Rogers? And then on the Clare side, do you bring someone back into the team? Or Shane O'Donnell is another trouble for Limerick to have potentially. But do you bring, from a Clare point of view, do you bring somebody back into the team, say Tony Kelly, probably one of the best players in the country over the last 2 seasons? Do you bring him into the start 15? So, like, there's a lot of ifs, buts, and maybes come Sunday.
Yeah, it's a hard one to know. Like, I suppose like Tony Kelly's obviously been, he's been back training for a while now. He's come off the bench in every game. Obviously, Barra in the Cork game, and I suppose the last game, I actually didn't see him come off the bench against Tipperary, to be fair, but coming off the bench against Waterford, he did look a little bit more like himself, as opposed to when he came on against Limerick, he didn't look at his best. But it's just a hard one. Like, who do you take out there? Like, you've got Shane O'Donnell, you can't take him out. I don't think you can take Aidan McCarthy out. I think Mark Rogers is untouchable as well. You're looking at David Reedy, Peter Duggan, Cathal Malone. Maybe you take one of them out, or maybe you take Darragh Lohan out and just put Tony Kelly in field. But I think, to be fair, like with Clare, they've done enough damage with their best starting 15. And I think the problem is, like, if you start Tony Kelly and in the opening 20-25 minutes, he's not at the races, maybe he isn't as fit as what we expect, then you have to take him off and bring someone else on who then has to get back to the pace of the game, who essentially would have been starting in the last games as well. So I think you keep Tony Kelly in reserve. I think you keep him for the final 20-25 minutes. I don't think you bring him on for like the final 10, because it will take him a couple of minutes to get up to the pace of the game. So you bring him on for the final 20. But I think what Clare have there, and Shane O'Donnell, Aidan McCarthy, Mark Rogers. Like, I think they've got enough damage to be done there. But I suppose the thing really is, like, it'll be up to management, it'll be up to Brian Lohan, be up to Clare, to really see where they're at with it.
Yeah, definitely so. But a major concern that I think for Clare, looking at defensively, I've just been looking at stats there that I did in the last few games. I obviously didn't do stats in the Tipperary game because the game somehow was not available on RT Player. But again, another discussion for another day. They conceded 36 shots against Limerick, which wasn't too bad in Ennis, but they conceded 40 shots against Cork and then 44 against Waterford. Waterford conceded 50 shots against Limerick the last day out. Limerick still had, what was it, nearly 20 wides the last day, and still got over the line quite comprehensively. So is that a concern for Clare? Just to reduce the amount of shots that Limerick are taking, just to reduce the brilliance that Garrod Hagerty's potential of doing in many games, Tom Morrissey, Aaron Gallant. So is that the aim for Clare, to go on and win this game as well, just to reduce the shot count?
I think so, yeah, because like Limerick shooting wise, like they scored 30 points against Waterford, but they had 17 wides. So, that, like, they nearly had 50% of their, or not 50%, but they had a large section of wides. So I think it is. I think absolutely it's huge for Clare. And if Clare probably have conceded a lot more than what Waterford or than what Limerick have been conceding, like Limerick conceded 118 versus Clare, 214 versus Waterford. They're not conceding too much, really, when you look at it in terms of points and overall scores. Like the Cork game maybe is the only kind of exception to that, and that was just really the final sort of 20 minutes of that game. So yeah, I think it is an area of concern for Clare. And I think if they were to concede 45 chances, I think they lose the game, because I don't think Limerick will miss as many chances as they did against Waterford. So it's definitely something for them to work on.
Yeah, definitely. So they didn't concede much against Waterford. I was looking there. The only time they conceded 40 or over shots was against Cork in the last 4 games. So Clare had some working to do come this game as well. And if you were to put a gun to your head, Aaron, if you were to call a winner in this game, who would it be? Because like Clare chasing their first Munster title since the late 90s. Limerick obviously going for the 6th in a row, probably the first Munster side ever to do it. Who do you think is going to do it? Can Clare stop history in its tracks, or can Limerick just keep on rolling in this trend?
Yeah, I think Limerick. I think Limerick will be too strong, to be honest. And I think the thing is as well with these games, and we always look at the technical brilliance of Limerick, and what Paul Kinnerk and John Coyley, like, they'll see the problems and then fix them mid-game and change systems and everything else to try and overcome any obstacles that are happening. But it's just the mentality side of things from Limerick. Like, any time they go and gets tough, they always find a way. And yes, obviously they lost to Cork, fair enough. But I just don't think it happens in a Munster final. I don't think that happens in an All-Ireland semi-final or final. And yeah, I think Limerick click into gear. And I think mentality-wise, going down the home stretch, Limerick have been there and done it time and time again, whereas Clare haven't been. And it's one of them things where until Clare actually go and do it, you're probably always going to back Limerick. And I think Limerick as well, they've found a little bit more from their bench this year. Adam English, Donnacha O'Donnell, Shane O'Brien. I think their bench makes more of an impact than the Clare bench, in my opinion. And I think that'll be the difference. And yeah, I'd probably go 2-point win for Limerick.
Yeah, I'm probably going to go for a Limerick win as well. It's slightly so. I'd probably go for a point or two as well. And it should be a very interesting game come Sunday, and it will be very interesting to see who will come out on top. The other final is an interesting one as well, to be fair. Kilkenny against Dublin in Croke Park, Saturday, 6 p.m. RT2. Obviously, you're going to the game, Aaron. It's on Croke Park, obviously. And Kilkenny were tested all the way by Dublin in Parnell Park. Can Dublin repeat the trick? And even look at the game again on the website. Yes, Dublin beat Kilkenny in the Championship in 2013, but do you want to know when the last time Dublin beat Kilkenny in the Championship other than that game was in the Championship? Do you want to have a guess, Aaron?
I think I know. I think it's is it like 70 years before, 80 years before? Is it like the 1920s or something like that?
Not that far back, 1942.
1940.
So
wow.
So yeah, that's one win since 1943. Can Dublin get their second win since 1943 in this game?
And that shows how hard of an obstacle it is for Dublin, in fairness. And look, Dublin probably in the early 2000s were absolutely miles and miles off of where they're at now, to be fair. Like, it's probably only been in the late 2000s and early 2010s where Dublin have really kicked on in hurling and established themselves as a very competitive team. But yeah, it shows how hard it is. And so many times in the last 10 years, we've had moments where we've nearly beaten them, just like in Parnell Park, just like a couple of years ago in that game during COVID in 2020, 2014 as well. We've had a lot of moments where we've come close to beating them, but Kilkenny just always find the way. They always turn it up when they most need to. Like, you felt like at Parnell Park, they always kind of had us at arm's length and they were always kind of in control. Like, hearing Adrian Mullen's going to be back. There's obviously going to be no John Donnelly, which is going to be huge. I don't think Keane O'Sullivan's going to be playing for Dublin, so that's going to be a big miss. But look, Dublin have a chance. I think for Dublin, they need to set the precedent early. We can't allow Kilkenny get an early goal and settle into the game. There's going to be a huge Dublin crowd there. There'll probably be more Dublin fans there than Kilkenny fans. So I think, like, if Dublin can get an early goal and just build up a lead and really put Kilkenny on the back foot, I think we have a chance. But I think the opening 20, 25 minutes is absolutely crucial, because if we concede an early goal, heads could drop and we could fall apart. So, yeah, I think opening 20 minutes are huge.
And just following on from them stats on the game, since 1923, Kilkenny have beaten Dublin 51 times in the championship. Dublin have only won 9, and there's been 6 draws. So that does tell you that Dublin do have the lower hand in many ways to Kilkenny. But at the same time, in 2021, in the last Leinster Championship final meeting between the sides, Dublin, let's not forget, had a COVID outbreak. Owen O'Donnell went off early, and that kind of derailed Dublin in that game in general. In the last game they played full stop at the championship, it was an Owen Cody last additional time goal that won it really for Kilkenny and Parnell Park. And arguably Dublin should have won that game with their running game and all that. Do those 2 games in particular, Aaron, give you a bit of hope that, you know, the Leinster final, if things went differently, maybe we would have thought about a different story? And the fact that he pushed them so hard on Parnell Park that time as well, does that give you hope that you can pull off the shock here?
Yeah, like it does to a certain extent, like in Parnell Park. And the thing is as well, like, I was at both of those games, and like the one in Parnell Park in particular, like we started the game quite slow. Like we actually struggled to, like, I remember at times we weren't like, the ball wouldn't stick. We weren't able to catch the ball correctly. Overhit passes. Like, let's not forget, we nearly conceded a goal in the opening couple of minutes. I think Owen Cody forces a big save of Sean Brennan, and it could have been a completely different game if that goes in. So yeah, I think for Dublin, like, they need to settle. They need to start fast. It's okay. Yes, it does give you confidence, but it's also one of them as well where Kilkenny were probably very vulnerable coming into that game. They didn't have Adrian Mullen. Owen Cody was just back. They just drawn with Carlow. Round robin game. It's not necessarily a knockout game. So you felt like Kilkenny were vulnerable and there for the taking. And I think Kilkenny haven't really clicked into gear just yet. And I think everyone's obviously focusing on Limerick, Clare, Cork. Like, they're obviously 3 contenders for the All-Ireland. But Kilkenny are definitely still in the conversation as well. They definitely haven't gone away, in my opinion. Yes, maybe they haven't looked brilliant throughout Leinster, but we all know, like, at some point they're probably going to click into gear. And just like they done last year against Galway, where they got over the line, they were coming in against Clare and everybody was thinking, right, this is the time now Clare will beat them. And then Kilkenny turned it on. So yeah, I think we have a massive chance. I think this is as good as an opportunity we have to win a Leinster title in those 11 years. 2021, as you said, we had the COVID outbreak. Then we had Owen O'Donnell going off. So we had a bit of bad luck that day. But yeah, I think this is a massive opportunity.
It is definitely. Yeah, one of the commentary acers actually commented here. Colin Fennelly, 2018 in Parnell Park, last minute goal. Was that the one where Fergal Whiteley just pulled it into the top corner? Or am I thinking of a different game that time?
I think so, yeah. I think it might have been. There's so many of them, to be honest with you. Very hard to remember them all. I'm trying to forget them all as well and keep losing.
Yeah. Exactly. We'll probably focus on Dublin a bit later, but for Kilkenny, obviously, as you mentioned there previously, reports are saying that Mikey Carey is out injured, John Donnelly as well with a dislocated thumb, I'm hearing. But Adrian Mullen back at the team, I think that's a huge boost to Kilkenny because they haven't scored as freely as they they have done in previous games. Owen Cody as well is a big player to get back into that team as well. So I think like for Kilkenny to have those two players in particular back fully fit, I think it's going to be massive for Kilkenny. And as well as that, you mentioned it beforehand as well, Aaron, they haven't hit fifth gear quite yet. Is this the game where they have to hit fifth gear in order to maybe stake a claim against the likes of the Limericks, the Corks, the Clares?
Absolutely, yeah. Like I think for Kilkenny in general, like we know the talent of their players, and TJ Reid, Owen Cody, Adrian Mullins obviously coming back in, like super talented side. They're definitely still one of the contenders. Billy Drennan's obviously a phenomenal player as well, phenomenal young player to come back in. I think he could be back as well, potentially on the bench. So yeah, I think for Kilkenny, like realistically, like with the talent and players that they have, they should beat Dublin comfortably. They probably should beat us by 5 or 6 if they're really, really on it. What I'm hoping for really is that they have a bit of an off day and Dublin can capitalize on that. But I think with Kilkenny as well, it's that fair enough you focus on all the key players, your TJ Reeds and your own Codys and everything else, but they have so many other players there who just chip away with a couple of scores. Like as you said, John Donnelly, he'll be a big miss, but you have Mossy Keown who always chips away with 3 or 4 points. You've got Owen Wall, who I think has been very, very good as well. So you have so many players there, like Walter Walsh could be back in as well. So you have so many players there that are always just making a little impact, chipping away with the odd couple of scores here and there. And I think sometimes that's the difference.
Yeah, exactly. Ace was commenting again about this game. Kilkenny can win this game in second gear. They only need to go up to top gear against Clare in the semi-final. And do you think that's a bit harsh on Dublin, Aaron, yourself? Like if Kilkenny go in second gear, that they'll win this game? I honestly think I think they have to be in at least fourth gear, because I think Dublin are a serious team right now. So I don't know what you think about that comment yourself.
Yeah, no, I think if Dublin play to their absolute best, which they're going to have to win, like if Dublin play 100%, Kilkenny play at 80%, I think it could be a draw. Dublin might nick it. It could be a point either way. But I think anything below that from Kilkenny and Dublin are playing at 90, 95%, because you're probably not always going to play at 100% every game. Then I think maybe then Kilkenny win it. But like the thing is as well at the game in Parnell Park, like I do think Dublin can play better. I actually don't think they were at their best in that game. And even the game against Galway, like it's very easy to look back and think, oh yeah, we won by 6 points. It was a comfortable win. But up until that red card, Galway were beating us quite comfortably. Like I think it was 8 points to 1-1 at that stage. So like there is still a lot for Dublin to work on. And I don't think we've necessarily seen Dublin's best performance of the championship so far. So like if we can put that out there in Croke Park on Saturday, like it could be huge. It could be huge. And maybe, who knows, maybe it might be enough to win.
And another angle to this game that I want to talk about as well before we get on to a prediction. Kilkenny against Wexford in the last game. Kilkenny scored 13 points from play compared to Wexford's 214 from play. Is that something that you'll take as a Dublin fan, thinking we're not going to give too much freeze to TJ Reid and he'll put them over the bar, obviously, but is that a key for the Dublin defence, just to stay disciplined in this one? I know it's a small little thing, but when you look at the stats there for the last game against Wexford, that'll be absolutely vital for Dublin, their discipline.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, and I know a lot of Wexford fans weren't necessarily happy with maybe some of the decisions and everything else, and they probably felt that Kilkenny got a lot of easy frees. And funny enough, like a lot of Dublin fans probably felt the same when we played Kilkenny as well. Like there was a few contentious decisions obviously towards the end of that game, but yeah, I think it'll be huge, for the likes of Owen O'Donnell, who'll probably, you'd imagine, be picking up one of either TJ Reid or Owen Cody. I think he should probably pick up Owen Cody, to be honest, because I think he can do more damage from play, in my opinion. But then again, he has been able to pocket TJ Reid a good few times over the last few years and has done really, really well. Paddy Smith, John Bellew, Chris Crummy obviously be bursting forward when he gets the ball. But they all need to be on it, and they can't be giving away silly frees, because the difference is, like Kilkenny, especially with TJ Reid, or even if he's not on them, like they'll nail those frees. They nail them 90% of the time, and probably even more. So yeah, like Dublin discipline will have to be so crucial from a Dublin perspective. And I think the referee is Ger Brown, is it, from Waterford? I think from what I've seen. So
Hold
look,
on, I'll double check it there. I'll have to see. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who the
Thomas Walsh actually. Thomas Walsh from Waterford.
Thomas Walsh from Waterford.
Yeah.
Haven't heard too much bad things about him, but I think he'll let the game flow. I do think he'll let the game flow. I think the main thing for Dublin, the likes of Owen O'Donnell, the likes of John Bellew, Chris Crummy, I think it's just to stand their ground for these Kilkenny players. And undoubtedly, the likes of Kilkenny, the likes of Adrian Budd, they are speedy players. Owen Goldie as well, in particular. They are speedy players. It's just about not fouling them, and just when you put them in the corner, don't give away a stupid free. I think Clare did one in the semi-final last year, if you remember, Aaron. I think it was Richie Hogan, who's now retired, by the way. He actually flicked the ball over Dermot Ryan, and Dermot Ryan just collides with him, and TJ Reid just pokes the ball over the bar. That put Kilkenny, I think, 2 points clear at that point. So it's crucial for Dublin just to stand their ground in those situations.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, and the thing is as well, like Kilkenny are, like they've been there, they've done it. They know all the little secrets in terms of, winning a free, getting a last minute point. And they've been there so many times. It's in Kilkenny's DNA, really, scoring last minute points, last minute goals. We saw it in the Leinster final last year as a perfect example. Like, you can throw everything at them and they'll still find a way to beat you, even when they're not at their best. So, Dublin will have to be very street smart, I think, in regards to that. And they do have young lads in there. Paddy Smith, obviously, Owen O'Donnell's been around for a while, Chris Crummy as well, but they need to be, they need to be at it, and they need to be clever and smart in those areas. Otherwise, again, like, that's how Kilkenny just chip away at a lead,
Yeah, exactly. So just before we get on to our prediction, Kid Cuddy just asked a question there. What did TJ score from frees in the last round? He's automatic. Yeah, just to answer your question there, he scored 113 altogether against Wexford, and he scored 12 from frees, 1 sideline, and 1 penalty. So that's 113 from place balls. So that's the point we're making. The Dublin need to be disciplined in all this, and they need to stand their ground properly. So I think you'll be predicting Kilkenny win, but hoping that Dublin would just, upset the odds if they can.
Yeah, like, I probably would, to be honest. Like, my heart obviously wants Dublin to win. My heart says Dublin will win, but I think my head very much says Kilkenny probably will do it. Like, I think, as I said to you yesterday, like, the only way I think we'll beat Kilkenny is if we just we get a 5, 6, 7 point lead towards the end, and then maybe hang on. Like, I feel like if it's a narrow game, I can see Kilkenny winning, and I just think Kilkenny will find a way, as they so often do, to win. And it will be close. There might be a contentious decision in there again. I'll go with a 1 point win for Kilkenny, but look, I certainly hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'd probably go for Kilkenny about 2 or 3 points, but we will see what will happen on Saturday. It should be a very interesting game indeed. Just before we get on to the Jump at Donegal final, an interesting comment coming in for Bathers. Joke that GA will hold Cork versus Dublin and Wexford versus Clare, imagining that Cork and Wexford beat the Joe at Dublin teams in the preliminary round. I thought that game was on RTE. I could be wrong now, but if those 2 games are on GA that's another discussion to have, Aaron, I suppose.
Yeah, it certainly will be all right, because I think, are they on the same weekend as the preliminary rounds in football? And don't they have... Yeah, and I think they have 2 games on GA as well, so... That means, I think, does that mean all the games are on GA that weekend?
Oh, please don't say so. Actually, the Tailteann Cup semi-finals are on that weekend, and I'm sure they're on RT.
Yeah, they could be, maybe, yeah. Yeah, that would be... Yeah. I mean, Cork at this stage, like, I mean, they might as well just be on GA. Like, have they even been on RTE at all year? I don't even know if they have been.
Against Tip in the Munster Championship, that was the only one. But coincidentally, I was actually doing stats in my head of how many times teams have been streamed live in the football. I have to do the hurling now, but in the football, and Clare are an All-Ireland Senior Football Championship team, and they've only been shown on either GA or RT only twice out of 12 games.
Yeah, there we are.
No, it's just bad at this point, but we'll get on to Laois at Offaly a bit now. I think a comment came in here. I'll try and get it up. Kid Cuddy, you boys will be behind Diego next. Like, where did that come from? To be fair, Diego have very good pundits. They have very good pundits, but myself and I, we would be totally against Diego, but we wouldn't be totally for them either. If that makes sense. Because of
like, I think it is a good service. It's just the fact that they don't show that many games. Like I probably do actually enjoy Diego's coverage more than RTE. Do you know what I mean? But the problem more so is that too many of these games aren't being shown when they have the cameras there. Like, fair enough, I understand you can't always have pundits there. You can't always have commentators there because obviously you have to pay them all to be there and everything else. And there's so much going on all across the weekend. But usually you'll have commentators there anyway who will do the highlights. So I don't see any reason why they can't be there. Do you know what I mean? Like, say the Cork Donegal game. And even if there was no commentators, people would still watch it. So, yeah.
We might get on to the GAGO discussion once we get on to the LGFA, because the LGFA do something that's absolutely brilliant at the moment, and we will get on to that in a sec. But going on to the last hurling final of the weekend, and obviously it is the Laois and Offaly game in the Joe McDonagh Cup final on Saturday at 3:30 in Croke Park on RT2. Obviously great to see both of these sides get their day out in the sun in Croke Park, and looking at the journey to the final and the scores for both Laois and Offaly going to this final. So we started off with Laois. They beat Offaly the first day out by 221 to 24 points. That was a last minute goal for Paddy Purcell to win that game. Hammered Meath in the second game by 7 goals, 29 points to 116. They beat Kerry 125 to 16 points. Beat Down by 431 to 17 points. And they lost to Westmeath 226 to 16 points. If you actually disregard the Westmeath game, they've only conceded 1 goal in 4 games, which is an absolutely incredible record for Willie Maher's team, I'd imagine. They've scored an average of 324 a game, and they've averaged a concession rate of 119. When you look at their scores as well, Aaron Dunphy at the top of the tree there with 26 points. Tomas Keys with 4 goals and 5 points from play. Willie Dunphy with 3 goals and 7 points. Paddy Purcell with 2-9. Ian Corby with 12 points. You've Ross King there, Stephen Pickett-Barr. You have David Dooley, you have Martin Phelan. Some very good players on the list from a Laois point of view. Looking at Offaly, their journey to the final, they lost to Laois obviously on the first day out by 221 to 24 points, as mentioned before. They beat Westmeath by 223 to 120. They beat Meath 531 to 316, so a goal fest in that game. They beat Kerry by 324 to 15 points, and beat Down in another goal fest, 523 to 325. They've averaged a score of 325 per game, an average concession rate of 219 per game. So a lot of goals guaranteed in the game involving the Offaly seniors at the moment. Look at their scores. Brian Dinan, that's the son of Michael, scoring 2 goals and 33 points in this Joe McDonagh Cup. You have Owen Cahill there with 1 goal and 18 points. Charlie Mitchell with 114. Killian Sampson with 2-8. And he was a star, obviously, in the UL team in the Fitzgibbon Cup this season. So they definitely want to watch on Saturday. Adam Screeney, the boy wonder himself, 1-9. You have Oisin Kelly with 3 goals and 3 points. Dan Burke, obviously, got man of the match in the under-20 final against Tipperary the last day out. Obviously, a brilliant win for Offaly that day for their under-20 team, and he's in the senior team as well. You have others under-20s in the senior team like Donald Shirley, I'm sure, this team as well. So, like, there are under-20s in this team. Charlie Mitchell obviously was in under-20 last season, now is fully on the senior panel this year. So Offaly are more of a younger team, but you look at the Laois team, Paddy Purcell, Stephen Pickett-Marr, the Dunphys in Willie and Aaron, they seem more experienced. But the question is, Aaron, and the big question is, who will win, experience or youth?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, all right. I think Laois definitely do have probably the better team right now on paper. They're probably like a little bit ahead of Offaly as of right now, you would say, in terms of like Offaly have a lot of younger players that have obviously come in, the under-20s and whatnot. So they're probably not quite there just yet. But I do have a feeling like Offaly can do it. I think their ceiling is higher. I think they do have the potential to produce a better performance. I think a lot of those lads will be absolutely buzzing with confidence. The younger lads, your Adam Screeneys, your Dan Burks, I think they'll be absolutely buzzing with confidence. I think that confidence could very much pass on to some of the more senior lads like Owen Cahill and whatnot. So I probably fancy Offaly, to be honest with you. I think their ceiling is higher. I do think Laois have been here before and done it. A lot of those lads have been here before and done it, like Adrian Dunphy, Paddy Purcell. Like, they've obviously been here and done it before. But I think this is Offaly's time, and maybe just with winning the under-20 All Ireland last week, it's going to be the fairy tale week for Offaly hurling.
It possibly will be, but I suppose the main kind of concern for Offaly fans, I'd imagine, is because Laois, in the games that did matter, obviously the Westmeath game didn't matter at the end of the day. Laois finished top of the group as expected. But in those 4 games, they conceded 1 goal. Offaly have scored a bucket load, but you'd imagine, I know Adam Screedy might play in this game, Dan Burke might play in this game. You have obviously Owen Cahill, you have Brian Doyne, and you have some excellent forwards in this team. I think the question mark coming into Saturday is where will they find the space to get these goal opportunities? Because as seen from the stats there, Laois don't concede many goals. So I think Offaly, if they can get goals in this game, I think they'll be going a long way to going on and win the game.
I think so, yeah, because as you said, they're scoring nearly 5 goals a game, Offaly, when you're kind of going through it there, and obviously looking aside from the Westmeath game, like Laois haven't conceded too much, so could be huge. But I do think from an Offaly perspective, like obviously when they played Laois the last time, Laois probably did have the better of them. They did have their number that day, but I just fancy Offaly in terms of their forwards, in terms of those younger lads coming in, Owen Cahill, Killian Sampson, obviously 2 more experienced players. Adam Screeney, Dan Burke maybe to start. So yeah, no, I think Offaly's firepower should do the difference. And I know Laois did rest their team against Westmeath and lost, but there is a common trend of teams who get through to the Joe McDonagh Cup final too early and then go out and lose the Joe McDonagh Cup final. Like I'm pretty sure Offaly were almost in a very similar scenario last year, whereas Carlow were the team that actually came in fresh. So I think that could stand to Offaly.
Possibly could be, yeah. And if Offaly were to win, as you mentioned there, it would cap off a fairy tale week for the whole faithful county. So I'm going to say Offaly will win this game, but I think it could be maybe even a point or two. It could be extra time in this one. We could be here for a long while. Could be even penalties. So I think it could be a very, very tight game between the two because, yes, Offaly have a lot of young and super players, the likes of Adam Screedy, obviously, and Dan Burke. But Laois, like Paddy Purcell, is not a player that belongs to the Joe McDonagh Cup, in my opinion. Lee McCarthy is probably his level. Willie Duffy, Aaron Duffy, there's outstanding players in that team as well. So this could be a draw written all over it. I will say Offaly by a point, but it should be a very tight game to call in general. And another comment in here from Acers. Gaelic Roads Limerick will host Cork and Dublin and Wexford and Clare on GA Go. Yeah, you look, we can't speculate at the moment. We'll leave that for now. I think the games will be on RT. I'm pretty sure those games will be on RT. We'll have to see in the next few weeks, obviously. So that is the hurling wrapped up. We'll move on to the Camogie now, and we'll move on to Group 1. In the All-Ireland, the Glen Dimplex All-Ireland Championship. So Kilkenny are playing Waterford in this game at 3:00. In Nolan Park on Saturday. Obviously, Kilkenny are on 4 points at the moment. Waterford are on 2 points. And just looking at the other games in Group 2, again, another team that are on 4 points are Tipperary. They're playing Antrim this weekend, who are on 0 points. So you would imagine Tipperary will win that game in the Rag on Saturday at 2 p.m. And Derry against Limerick in Owen Beg at 2 p.m. Derry have 2 points. Limerick are on 0 points, so they need to get points on the board, you'd imagine. But look at those games in Group 1 are, and the pick of the games has to be Kilkenny against Waterford. Obviously, Kilkenny had a disappointing year last year. The All-Ireland Championship went out in the quarters to Cork. Waterford went all the way to the All-Ireland Finals. So if Waterford were to beat Kilkenny in Nolan Park, that would be a brilliant result for Jerry Wallace's team, I'd imagine, with the likes of Beck Carton, Niamh Rockett, all in form, obviously Lorraine Bray there as well. Kilkenny have a few players missing, like their captain, I think Jenny Clifford's missing. You have Claire Phelan, who retired early on in the season. You have Denise Gall, who Ware's gone down to Australia as well, who was a big loss to the Kilkenny team. You have players stepping up in Kilkenny, like Aoife Doyle, like Miriam Walsh. But those are big losses for Kilkenny. But even to have 2 wins on the board after 2 games, maybe will reduce the pressure going to this game against Waterford. So Kilkenny-Waterford probably the pick of the games this weekend. So what do you think of Group 1 are?
Yeah, look, two big games, or 3 big games, but obviously, yeah, the Kilkenny-Waterford game I think probably stands out. Yeah, as you said, like it would be a real sort of signal of maybe the tide turning a little bit in terms of if Waterford could win this game, having obviously got to a final last year, which Kilkenny obviously weren't in. So it'll be huge, but you probably would go for Kilkenny. I think being at home in Nolan Park with the form of some of their key players, as you said before, you probably would have to shade it for Kilkenny at this moment of time. But in fairness, look, Waterford have had a very strong year last year. They've obviously proven themselves as a very difficult team to beat. So I would go with Kilkenny, but I wouldn't entirely be surprised if Waterford were able to do something in it.
Yeah, it should be a very interesting game. I'd probably say Kilkenny will go on and win the game as well, but should be a tight one to call. And you would imagine Aaron Tipperary to beat Antrim, and that is probably going without saying, because Antrim are struggling at the moment for results. Tipperary are probably one of the most informed teams in Camogie at the moment. Derry and Limerick's quite an interesting one. Could we see a scalp there? Because Derry won a game obviously against Antrim. Limerick haven't won a game as of yet. They got hammered by Waterford and hammered by Kilkenny in their first 2 games. The game's on and on big. Is there an opportunity for the All-Ireland Intermediate champions to beat a Munster side of this, which would be huge for the county of Derry, I'd imagine?
Absolutely, yeah, it would be. Like, you'd imagine Limerick should have enough to come through it, but as you said before, like, all of a sudden, like with Derry obviously having 2 points at the board, Limerick lost the last time out, so there's a chance there. There 100% is a chance for Derry, and yeah, like, it would kind of be an unusual one seeing Derry beating Limerick, but I think it's very, very probable to happen, in fairness.
It could be, yeah. Like the players like Aoife Shaw, Anya Barton do well at the Derry team, over the whole as well. So Derry are very good players at the moment. I actually think I'm going to go for the shock there. I think Derry could beat Limerick in this game. I think it should be a very interesting game to look at in the Camogie landscape over the weekend. And looking on to Group 2 as well, you have Dublin against Wexford, a repeat of the Division 1B final in the league. That's on Saturday at 2 p.m. in Parnell Park. You have Clare against Cork at Cusack Park Ennis at 2 p.m. on Saturday as well, and you have Galway against Down on Saturday at 1 p.m. in Pearse Stadium in Salthill. Now, the situation in this group, as far as I know, Galway are on 3 points, Down are on 0, Clare, I think, are on 2 points, Cork are on 4 points, Wexford are on 3, and Dublin themselves are on 2 points. So, probably Wexford are on 1 point, excuse me. So the leading ones are probably Galway and Cork, even though Galway got a draw against Wexford last time out. I think the pick of those games, I think Cork should beat Clare, Galway should be Down as well. I think the pick of the games is probably going to be this one, Dublin against Wexford in Parnell Park. Repeat of the league final, obviously Division 1B. Could Dublin win at home? Like Wexford drew against Galway last time out. Dublin beat Clare. So both sides going in under a decent run of form themselves. So can Aisling Maher and Aisling O'Neill lead Dublin to victory over a decent enough Wexford side? And as well as that, Wexford are missing Ciara O'Connor because apparently she got injured. She went off early against Galway. So I'd imagine that's going to be an injury. So there's every chance Dublin get a win here.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's huge. I think it's a massive opportunity, as you said, repeat of the league final. 2 sides that obviously know each other very, very well at this stage. And Dublin are coming in good form. Like, there's been a lot of momentum that have obviously happened throughout the league. A lot of key players are obviously playing very, very well. Wexford will be tough, though. Like, Wexford have had some big wins. I remember them obviously putting a mad scoreline on Antrim. We obviously struggled a little bit against Antrim ourselves. And it was probably a surprise in some ways that we competed so well against Wexford in the league final. Like, they were coming in as massive favourites. But yeah, like, taking them down obviously to Parnell Park, very, very difficult place to go. I think Dublin have a serious chance here. I definitely think they could get something. Could be a draw, maybe an narrow win. But yeah, I think Dublin have a serious opportunity.
Yeah, I think Dublin will win that game as well. It goes without saying, I think Cork and Galway will win the other 2 games. So that is the Camogie wrapped up. We'll move on to Gaelic football now. We'll move on to the men's football side first. And Tailteann Cup preliminary quarterfinals are this weekend. And the pick of the bunch is obviously Leitrim against Wicklow on in Park Sean McDermott on Saturday at 7 p.m. live on Go. It is Andy Moore versus Oisin McConville, 2 brilliant forwards in their day, but now managing both sides in Leitrim and Wicklow respectively. So Wicklow obviously won their last game against Carlow to save themselves and get into the preliminary quarterfinal. Leitrim won 2 games out of 3, but lost their last game to Kildare. So this is an interesting one to call. And as well as that in the league, Leitrim went up to Division 3, Wicklow went down to Division 4. So I don't think there's going to be much to separate these two.
No, there definitely won't be. And I suppose it's the battle of the pundits, really, isn't it? Andy Moran and Oisin McConville off the ball versus BBC in terms of pundits and everything else. So yeah, look, it's huge. I think Leitrim have had a very, very solid year. Obviously getting promoted from Division 4, that would have been their primary aim. Getting out of the group, finishing second, I think they would have been very happy with that. I thought they competed very well against Kildare as well, like to only lose by 7 when Longford got absolutely hammered by them, Waterford got absolutely hammered by them. So yeah, I think Leitrim will be very happy with how this year has gone. Obviously you have Ryan O'Rourke, but I think Darragh Rooney's been outstanding there as well. Wicklow being at home in Ockram, like that probably could be the difference, to be fair. It is in Ockram, isn't it?
I think the game's on. No, I think it's in Carrick-on-Shannon because Leitrim finished second.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry. Yeah, so look, maybe that could be the difference for Leitrim. In fairness, like having the home advantage, because you feel like home advantage could probably tip it ever so slightly. But look, Wicklow are coming in. I think Wicklow probably have competed at a higher level this year. They've obviously played in Division 3. They have a win over Westmeath in their books as well. So it's a very, very hard one to call. Like I wouldn't be surprised if it went to extra time or even more. But I probably would edge it towards Wicklow.
Yeah, to be fair, I actually think Wicklow will win the game as well. I just think there's a good factor around the panel with Oisin McConville. There is no doubt with Andy Moran as well. But it just feel Wicklow have come over tougher tests in this Tailteann Cup campaign. They've had to overcome a group with Fermanagh, Laois, Carlow, which are three very tough teams. Whereas Leitrim overcame Longford and Waterford, who aren't really up at the high standard, if you know what I mean. You have obviously Kildare, but that was the outlier there. So I just think the games that Wicklow did have in this campaign might be enough to get them over the line. And if Wicklow, and as well as that, Laois are seen as an impressive team in this Tailteann Cup. Wicklow had a man sent off. I think it was Kevin Quinn in the last 10 minutes. And if Kevin Quinn didn't get sent off in that one, Wicklow could have gone on and won that game. So there's every chance that Wicklow put off the shock here. And I think it honestly will be a shock that if Wicklow do overcome Leitrim, but I think it's very, very possible.
I think it definitely is, yeah. Like as you said before, like I think both sides are very even though. Like I think in all honesty, like I think both Leitrim and Wicklow, like Leitrim are getting promoted, Wicklow are going down. Like next season, it's probably going to be the other way around. Like Leitrim are probably going to go back down, then Wicklow are probably going to come back up. Like I think both sides are caught in that limbo where, like if you're in Division 4, you're competing every year to get out of it. But if you're in Division 3, are you good enough to stay up? Probably not. So both sides are very, very even. I think Leitrim have had an extraordinary year, but I just think Wicklow just have a bit more. I think Kevin Quinn's a very good footballer, and I think they'll just about edge it. I think.
Yeah, it should be a tight game, but we're both going for Wicklow in that one. The other game, live on GA this weekend, is Laois against New York in O'Moore Park, Port Laois. Sunday, 12:30, live on GA. I think Laois have done relatively well in this Tailteann Cup. They pushed for Fermanagh all the way in the last round. Obviously, New York, they've played Mayo in the Connacht Championship, got a bit of a hiding, but then again, Mayo are still contenders for the All-Ireland Championship. So it is very hard to see where New York stands in many ways. So it might be a tough one to predict, given that we haven't seen much of the Exiles in many ways. But to be honest, I think if Laois lose this game, I think it would be a disaster for Justin McNulty.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think it'd be very, very hard to back anything other than a Laois win. Like obviously Justin McNulty's done a very good job with Laois. Has been maybe a little bit inconsistencies here and there, obviously throughout the Tailteann Cup and maybe throughout. Obviously, they lost quite convincingly in their championship game earlier in the year as well. But yeah, look, for New York, their team has changed quite a lot from last season. They do have Emmett O'Connell in there, like former Dublin footballer, so great to see him in there. Frankie O'Reilly, I think, did very well the last day against Mayo. I think he got the goal. You've got Jamie Boyle, obviously a fullback as well. So I think New York's team has changed quite significantly since last season. And I think Laois being at home, they should be too strong realistically. I think this is probably, like, I think for New York, like if they had gotten a Leitrim, I think it would have been very interesting given they beat Leitrim last season. But I think Laois was probably the one they would have looked at and thought, this is going to be very, very tough. And unfortunately for New York, with very limited preparation, Laois haven't played, like 4 or 5 games in the space of when New York last played. So I think Laois should win it fairly comfortably.
I think they should as well, but New York, it will be interesting to see how close they could get to this Laois team, because Laois have been very impressive in this Tailteann Cup, or maybe even one of the underdogs or the dark horses to win it. So I would go for Laois as well to win that one. The next game is a Munster derby in Rathkeale at 4 p.m. on Saturday. Limerick against Tipperary. Obviously, Tipperary getting into this preliminary quarterfinal by the skin of their teeth, beating Wexford by 3-5 to 12 points last weekend, with Sean O'Connor doing brilliantly in goal scoring form, obviously. But Limerick have 2 wins under their belt now, and let's not forget in the championship, they were ahead of Cork at half time at Páirc Uí Chaoimh as well. So to be fair to Limerick, after a wretched kind of a league campaign, they've really done well in the championship. They have in the Munster Championship, they pushed Cork all the way. And obviously the Tailteann Cup, they've won 2 games out of 3. So to be fair, if you're looking at it on form, you would imagine that Limerick win this game. But then again, it is a rivalry. It's a Munster derby. Form in many ways goes out the window. So what do you think about this one?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I think both of these two, like, have obviously been on a very similar trajectory. Obviously, earlier in the year, like, I think Limerick struggled for large parts, as we very well know. Lost every game in the league. Tipperary didn't have a good Division 4 either. But kind of similarly, both of these two have brought back key players in the last couple of weeks. Like with Limerick, you've got Ian Corbett back, you've got Danny Neville back. Tipperary have Sean O'Connor back from injury and Connor Sweeney back. So like it's almost like both of these two have sort of brought key players back in the Tailteann Cup, like kind of in the business end of the season. Whether it was injuries or something, I'm not entirely sure. But I would probably go for Limerick. I think having the home advantage, I think that will be the key difference. Obviously they had a disastrous time. I think I remember you said like they lost 12 games in a row between last year and this year. They've now obviously won back-to-back games. Like they obviously beat London, beat Down, obviously, or beat Offaly as well. So yeah, Limerick have turned a corner, and I think at home they should have enough to win this game and get to a quarter final. But like what a great game this is. Like both of these two, you never would have imagined either one of these two to get to a quarter final, and one of them is going to get there. So I think like talk about turning the season around, and I suppose that's the great thing about the Tailteann Cup.
It is definitely, you have a side that gets in out of nowhere, and it has a very good run the competition. It was Carlow the last 2 seasons. It might be one of these two later in the summer. So I think Limerick will win this game. I think they're in better form than Tipperary at the moment, that they should get over the line. When you looked at the other 3 preliminary quarterfinals, then it was a tight one to call in many ways. Maybe not Laois New York, but we don't. That is the unknown with New York. For this game in particular, Aaron, I think this is one-way traffic. Antrim against London in Corrigan Park at Sunday at 2 p.m. Look, London got I know they beat Offaly in the first day, but they got hammered by Down. They got hammered by Limerick. Got beat by Limerick by 10 points to be exact. Antrim got 5 points in their group, including a 20-point apiece draw to Sligo, and have done really, really well in this Tailteann Cup. So, do you see any way that London overcome Antrim and cause a shock here?
No, I don't think so. In all honesty, like I think yes, look, it has been a very good year for London. To be fair, like to get that win, obviously last time out. But I think Antrim being at home in Corrigan Park, like I think Antrim, semi-finalists of this competition last season, Division 3 team. They certainly probably are maybe the best of the preliminary round teams that are left. Obviously you have your 4 teams that are already in the quarterfinals, and I think next in line probably is Antrim. So yeah, I think it will be just a bridge too far, I think, unfortunately for London. And yeah, I could see Antrim probably winning by 7 or 8.
Yeah, I think it could be close to 10 plus, to be honest. Antrim could run a mock on London, in my opinion. But that is the Tailteann Cup wrapped up this weekend. And before we end the podcast, we'll go on to the LGFA this weekend. And it is the first round of the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship. It is great to see the LGFA back. Obviously, there were provincial championships over the last few weeks, but the All-Ireland Series is kicking off this weekend. We will start off with this one live at TG Carr. Dublin against Mayo in Parnell Park on Sunday at 2:50 p.m. And how the LGFA Championship is structured, for those that are not in the know, there were 4 groups of 3 teams in the LGFA Championship, and the top 2 teams reach the quarterfinals. The bottom team goes into a relegation semi-final. So that's the way it goes. In this particular group, in Group 4, you have Dublin, Mayo, and Kildare. So Dublin and Mayo are probably the 2 top teams of the group, but maybe it's an opportunity for one of these sides to start off right and maybe to have one foot indeed into the All-Ireland quarterfinals. Dublin, obviously All-Ireland champions last year. You'd imagine Hannes Hill, Carter Rowe, Queeve O'Connor, Kate Sullivan, all them great players will be playing in this one. Mayo lost the final, probably shockingly so, to Galway in the last few weeks. Had a decent enough league campaign with Lisa Cafferty, Sinead Cafferty, all them players. But to be honest, Dublin are going on very nicely. They hammered Meath in the Leinster final. I think they should win this game in Parnell Park.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think this is the best. Like, I think Dublin look even better than how they looked last year. In all honesty, like to beat Meath in the way that they did, like was an absolute hammering. Like 5 goals. Nicole Owens was absolutely outstanding that day. Carla Rowe very good as well. Obviously we know the brilliance of Hannah Tyrrell from the All-Ireland final last season. So yeah, I think this should be a comfortable enough win from a Dublin perspective. But look, Mayo, Mayo, they certainly haven't gone away. Lisa Cafferty is obviously a very good player. But as you said, it was a surprise defeat against Galway. I think given how Galway had gone up until that point, you would have probably expected Mayo to win it. But I think Dublin being at home, I think should do it. And I think the big thing as well is obviously getting Sinead Goldrick back as well. Obviously, in at centre back has been absolutely huge. So, I'd probably go with a 5-point win for Dublin.
Yeah, I think Dublin should win this game as well. It will be a tight enough game, I think, for stages, but Dublin to put away in the end. The other game live at TG Carr this weekend. The TG Carr are absolutely brilliant at this coverage. I have to say, the LGFA Championship. It's on at Ballybuffet, Donegal against Kerry on Sunday at 1:05 p.m. That game is a Group 2. And for clarity for our listeners and viewers, this one is Kerry, Donegal, and Waterford. So again, it's an opportunity for one of these sides to get 2 points on the board and 1 foot into the All-Ireland quarterfinals. So, Kerry are going on very nicely. They won the Munster Championship a few weeks ago against Cork. Donegal pushed Armagh all the way in the Ulster final, though, and are a sticky team. Suzanne White in the form of her life in that team. Louise Verhurtig, obviously, for Kerry's brilliant. Hannah O'Donoghue, who's really come into her own. So is Daniel O'Leary for this Kerry team. So you would expect Kerry to win it, but Donegal are a sticky team, especially Ballybuffet.
Absolutely, yeah. Donegal are one of them teams that you think, obviously, with the turnover of players and everything in the last couple of seasons, they should be beaten quite comfortably. That's how you would look at it. But against Armagh, I think a lot of people in that Ulster final expected Armagh to walk all over them and beat them quite comfortably, and that just wasn't the case. Armagh obviously winning it right at the death. So I think Donegal have a chance playing at home. As you said, Suzanne White's been very impressive there. Cathy Heron's obviously been brilliant in a full forward. So, I think Donegal have a serious chance, but Kerry probably do have too much firepower, and he probably would edge it towards Kerry, to be fair.
Yeah, I'd probably go for Kerry to win that game as well. We'll move on to the next game, and this is live at the TG Carr YouTube channel, which is absolutely brilliant there. And the thing is with the LGFA Senior Championship, TG Carr across YouTube and TV are showing every single game in the Senior All-Ireland Championship, which is absolutely brilliant to see. And plaudits to TG Carr. We'll get the odds games. We might talk about that in detail as well after we discuss the games. Armagh against Meath on Saturday at 2 p.m. in the box at Athletic Grounds. So it's on TG Carr YouTube. Obviously, this group is Group 1, and the other team in this group is Tipperary. But to be honest, Armagh have lost Amy Mackin. That's a huge loss, ACL injury, and obviously we wish Amy all the best. I think Kieran Mackin got an ACL injury as well, so that family, as well as Blaughin, got an injury earlier on in the campaign as well. So that family's had a rotten luck with ACL injuries, and hopefully Amy does recover from it sooner rather than later. As for Meath, they've had probably a wretched year. They got hammered in the Leinster final. Vicky Wall's gone to play rugby, or Lally's gone down to the AFLW. The only one that's really stuck around for me is Emma Duggan. Even Niamh O'Sullivan and Norah Duff have retired from intercounty football. Even without Amy Mackin in the team, you would imagine Armagh would win this game because of what Meath have lost in general.
Yeah, it's been an incredible fall from grace, really, for Meath. I know obviously they've lost key players, as you said, Vicky Wall and a few others, but it has been quite incredible to see them fall this quickly, this fastly. Obviously, changing in management and everything else. But yeah, you probably still would go with Armagh. Not having Amy Mackin is huge. It probably dents Armagh's chances at winning an All-Ireland, to be fair. But look, they still have big players, and Niamh Henderson's obviously a very good player, Kelly Mallon as well. So you probably would still edge it to Armagh. You would hope there'd be a bounce from Meath at some point, though. To get beaten against Dublin in the way that they were in back-to-back games, by the way, let's not forget, because there was a group game just before that. It's huge. It's huge for me to put in a response. But to be fair, I can see Armagh doing it probably by 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think Armagh will win this game as well, but Meath need to get a win on the board. Obviously, Tipperary in this group will probably be licking their lips as well, because there's an opportunity for them to get 2 points on the board in the next few games, I'd imagine. But just before we get on to the next game, Amy Mackin for Armagh, that's a huge loss, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's, she was the best player in the country. There's no doubt about it. And her performances so far this year were absolutely outstanding. And I think she carries that Armagh side in more ways than one. And not having her, I think, is a huge, huge blow. And it probably does massively dent their All-Ireland hopes. But as you said, we all wish her the best. And she's obviously had to come back from injuries in the past. hopefully she comes back, fit and strong for this one as well. But it is a huge blow for Armagh, because you felt like this was the time now where maybe they could go on and do it. Maybe they were the closest challengers to Dublin, but all of a sudden now, without her there, I don't know if they'll be as close now.
Yeah, and interesting kind of angle in this game as well. Shane McCormick is the lead manager. He was the Armagh manager last season, so it will be a few feisty bits on the sideline, I imagine. So it should be very interesting to see that. And the last game this weekend is Laois against Cork in the All-Ireland Senior LGFA Championship in Group 3 on Sunday at 3 p.m. This is a double header with the Laois and New York game in the Tailteann Cup, which is brilliant to see. More double headers. The better it is for GA and the LGFA associations in general. The other team in this group is Galway. Cork, Laois is this group. Cork have their struggles this year. They have gone down to Division 2. They won 2 games in the Munster Championship and did push Kerry relatively close in 2 games, to be fair to them. Compared to the league outing, in fairness, said Shane Renane's team are gaining a bit of confidence with a young team. Let's not forget, Darren O'Sullivan's retired, Ciara O'Sullivan's retired, Roisin Featon's retired. You had Anya Terry O'Sullivan stepping away in the last few seasons, so is Emer Scally, Martin O'Brien retired. So there's been a lot of retirees and players leaving the panel for Cork, but they have got a new young team and coming up to the ranks, in fairness, for this Cork team. And you would imagine like they would struggle in many games, Cork, but this Laois team, they've struggled in the Leinster Championship. They got relegated to Division 3 in the league as well. And they have lost a few players along the way themselves. So you would imagine anything other than a Cork victory in this one, despite the game being on at Port Laois, would be an absolute shock.
Yeah, and I don't know, I kind of fancy Laois, to be honest. I nearly fancy Laois to pull off the shock and pull off the surprise. Like, I think Cork, I know obviously said like Cork gave Kerry quite a good go, and they have a young team, huge amount of turnover and everything else, but I do think they are beatable. Like, obviously being relegated, going down to Division 2, fair enough, yes. Look, Laois have obviously went down to Division 3, lost to Kildare obviously in Leinster as well. So look, on paper, Cork should win quite comfortably, but I don't know, I just fancy Laois at home. I think they might get something from this.
That is something I didn't expect in this podcast. Like Aaron Prendergast, the back Laois against Cork and All-Ireland semi-finalists from last season.
There you go. We love to just throw an L curveball every now and again. Sometimes they stick, sometimes they don't. Probably Cork will probably win now by 25 points or something. Probably
so, to be honest. I think Shane Renane might listen to this podcast and just stick the recording up in the wall in the dressing room and say that this guy predicted these to lose this game. But look, I think Cork should win this game comfortably. But Aaron thinks differently. He thinks the Laois will win this game. We'll have to see. Comes Sunday, we'll have to see who wins this game. But just a word on the LGFA Championship. All the games we streamed at either TG Car YouTube channel or TG Car. And I suppose with all the comments coming in about GA Go and stuff like that, people might be saying that fans are being too hard on GA Go and too hard on RT and stuff like that. With the LGFA, all the senior championship games are being streamed for free on YouTube and TG Car itself. So for me, Aaron, I think this is brilliant, and it's brilliant coverage for LGFA in general, for ladies football, to show what great players Cara Rowe is, Hannah Tyrrell, Louise Dever-Hurtig, Abigail Ring for Cork. I think it's absolutely brilliant that they are showing these games on YouTube and TG Car. So what do you think about this game, this move yourself? I think it's a brilliant move in general.
Absolutely, yeah, because it's great promotion, and that's all we've been asking for, and that's what we've been asking for with GA Go and RTE for years. Like, I mean, I don't think anyone's asking for. I know some people were saying on Twitter, like, oh, people are giving out, people are asking for the games for free and everything else. I don't necessarily think that's actually what people are asking for. I think it's just the fact that, for example, Cork Donegal last Saturday, there's cameras there, there's people at the game, highlights are going to be out and everything else. Why can't they just show that game on GA Go or somewhere? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a very, very simple strategy. And as you said with TG Car, like, they're not using excuses. They're not saying, oh, we can't get cameras here, we can't get people here, blah, blah, blah. They're just showing the games. And look, I'm sure maybe some of the games on YouTube, they mightn't have pundits or anything like that analysing the games at halftime, but they're still showing them. And that's the difference. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, why can't you show these games? Why can't Limerick playing Tipperary you know, I don't even know if that game's. I don't think that game's on this weekend. But like, why can't they upload that to their YouTube, or why can't they? Why can't it be streamed? Why can't counties have more control over games and showing highlights and everything else? So yeah, look, I think the GA probably really needs to take a you know, a leaf out of the LGFA book, because they're getting an absolutely spot on, and the fact they're able to show all the games, it's great promotion. And look, people will tune into them. I'll tune into them. Fans who maybe wouldn't be that interested might tune into them, because there probably is nothing else on that Sunday morning before, you know, the you know, the big Munster hurling games and everything else. So yeah, I think it's something really the GA needs to look at.
Yeah, definitely. So, and credit to TG Carr, obviously, and everybody that works there for doing this. It's absolutely incredible. And the pundits there are excellent as well. Obviously, you've seen the punditry, the Offaly Tipperary game, and the under 20s the other night. That was brilliant. And the LGFA pundits are absolutely brilliant at what they do as well. So yeah, all credit to TG Carr for giving us the opportunity to watch these games in general, and maybe for me to do statistical analysis before the All-Ireland final. That's another objective as well. So it's absolutely brilliant, and well done to TG Carr for doing this, and hopefully it will be a success for them later in the summer. So that is all the games in LGFA, in Camogie, in hurling, in Gaelic football, obviously this weekend. So give the video a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Give Aaron a subscription on YouTube. Obviously, congratulations to him hitting recently 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. Absolutely deserved. And obviously follow Aaron on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, all social media platforms as well. Thanks to Capture Athletics for sponsoring today's show as well. And until the next time, we'll see you then, and take care.